Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Yeah? All right. So I want to welcome everyone to 2018 Spring Town Hall. It actually is starting to feel like spring out there, which is a beautiful thing. It has been almost 5 years since we started on the strategic plan that we're just going to finish here at the end of December. So a lot of our work in the last little while has been focusing on what are we going to be doing in the next 5 years. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that just before I finish this afternoon, but I do want to recognize that we have St.Amant as an organization during the last 5 years has taken on a lot of new work and quite a bit of change in who we are and what we do, and that would not be possible without all of you out there. So I just want to take a moment and recognize that there has been a great deal of work done, and a big thank you to all of you. So the format for this afternoon is I'm going to give you some organizational and corporate updates, and that should take us about 20 minutes. And then we're going to take about a 15-minute break. There's refreshments and cookies at the back here, so feel free to help yourself. As Jen mentioned, there's an ability to approach either one of us with some questions that we can answer after, or you can save them, and the traveling mics can come to you, and you can ask them, and then I'll answer them. And then after the question piece, I think we're about 20 minutes on questions. We're going to have a short video. And then the favorite part of the town hall is the interview portion, and we have 2 interviews for you today. So that's what you're looking forward to today. Okay? So I have a lot of things that I need to share with you this afternoon, and the focus that I chose today is that we are a unique organization, and we can differentiate ourselves from many of the other organizations that do sometimes similar work to us out there in the community. And that's what I want to talk a little bit about. And I think these are all things that collectively we can be really proud of. Most of you know that we are talked about and recognized as an autism center of excellence. And most of us, especially when I first joined the organization, would have understood that to be really just focused on the preschool and the school age program that we offer through our autism program. And what I've seen over the last 5 years is that has grown to be really across the lifespan. And what I mean by that is that we have adolescents now that sometimes are having challenging times out in the community, and they're coming to St.Amant and asking us to help provide services or problem solve. In our community services program and in CRP, for many, many years, we've been serving a range of individuals, and some of them, and some might say quite a few of them, have a diagnosis of autism, but we don't differentiate, we don't actually identify them as such. But I think it is very important to recognize that that's an area where the greater community outside of St.Amant recognizes that we have special knowledge and skills that we can share with them. And we've seen that for sure in approaches from school divisions, from the Winnipeg Police Service has asked us to come and speak to them, and also from even the childcare world. They've asked us to come in and do some workshops and education there. So that's an area where I think you should be very proud of us as an organization. Another area is just our whole range of clinical expertise. And I would add to that our school has been moving towards providing more consultative services to schools out there. I'm fading in and out a bit, or I'm okay? Okay. And just recently, there's a whole range of services in our clinical menu, but one of them is our family care project, or family care program, I should say. That started back, around 2000, and it's a bit of an intensive case management model that we deal with. The worker deals with a smaller number of families, and those families could have a child with a disability, and we also have one in the adult program. And just recently, we had Children's Disability Services come to us and say, that program is so successful, we want to invest even more money in it. And that's what I'm seeing more and more. I think another story I'll tell you is our clinicians, there's a couple of human rights court cases that are going on in Manitoba here, and in order to prepare for those court cases, they approached us and our clinical staff to put together the assessments that will, in essence, be the basis for those human rights arguments, and ultimately, I hope, achieve better services for Manitobans with disabilities. So you should be very proud of those folks too. Our Community Stabilization Service used to be known as the Community Living Stabilization Service. It is a service for adults who have disabilities and live in the community and who run into crisis. And crisis for them might mean that they have to leave their home, or they're at risk of leaving their home. So our service, which is made up of a range of clinical resources, goes out and does an assessment and then provides recommendation and training to those individuals so that those people, so we can kind of interrupt that crisis and hopefully stabilize that person in the community. It's a tremendously valuable service, and we saw an increased investment, meaning more money and requests for more resources, and specifically they asked us to add a nurse into that model over the last year. So that's something else that I'm not sure everybody's aware of, but now you are, and you should be very proud of. Our nursing services, when I joined St.Amant just over 5.5 years ago, St.Amant was well known for its nursing services, but primarily in two places. Here at River Road on our living units and cottages, and also in our CRP program. We've always had that clinical nursing piece that offers training and support to our staff. But since then, what we've seen is the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority and the Department of Families have been asking us to do assessments all over the province. We've gone out and assessed certain agencies, and then some of those agencies have asked us to actually continue to be a service provider to them in providing nursing services. We know that the people who are transitioning to the community from River Road are followed by our nursing services, and that we are also using the information from their follow-up as part of our research project with the Winnipeg Foundation and evaluating the effectiveness of transition to community. We have nursing services embedded in our Jordan's Principle, which we're going to hear a little bit more about later on, and in the behavioral unit concept that we put forward, and some of us might say that we're actually already started delivering in a limited basis here at River Road. The other piece that I think we should be really proud of from community health is our new comprehensive health service that we're going to launch in May, which is going to be a nurse going out and doing a very comprehensive assessment on people who aren't getting their needs met by their GP. So often people who are nonverbal might have some complex issues going on, might have some pain issues that we haven't been able to get to the bottom of. Our nurse will go out and do a comprehensive assessment. That assessment will then go to clinic, where a nurse practitioner will sit down with the nurse and the individual and try and really get to the bottom of what's going on for that person. So that's the nature of the word comprehensive. It's a very thorough process, and we're going to try and do that. We're aiming at 120 assessments a year. So it's a bit of a part-time pilot initiative. We have funding from the Winnipeg Foundation to do that, and we're going to work very collaboratively with a larger health system to ultimately improve, I hope, the quality of medical assessment and services for people with disabilities. So another area to be proud of our nurses in. This is probably a new one for people. We were just approached the other day. Hey, would St.Amant be willing to be a center of excellence for aging and disability? And the reason they came to us is that we've been participating in a working group with lots of other agencies, the Department of Health people, etc., to talk about and to develop a framework for people with disabilities who have aging-related issues. People with disabilities are no different than the rest of our demographic, and we know that it's coming. There's a lot of people that are going to need our services. We also know that people with disabilities sometimes experience age-related diagnosis and issues earlier than other individuals. So we should be really proud that we're going to take on that role, and that means that we're going to develop tools and resources. Some of the tools are developed. We'll make sure that they're shared. We'll be able to train people in the future. And our lead in that area is Leanne Finney. And she's not here this afternoon because she's actually at a meeting for me. And I just want to recognize all of the work that her and the people that she's been talking to through this organization to make that happen. Another area that's different, that differentiates St.Amant from all of the other organizations is we are the only community, CRP and CS are the only areas that are accredited for this type of services that we deliver in this province. So our funder, the province of Manitoba, Department of Families, has known that for some time. They often talk about that, and that means that we put ourselves through a rigorous kind of test to really determine whether we are providing person-centered services or not. And I think our next round is June 4th to 7th is scheduled for our accreditation process there. In addition, I'm going to bring up Leanne one more time. She's going to wish she was here for all the recognition she's getting today. But I hope most of you know that she's been seconded to work with the Abilities Network, which is all of the St.Amants of the world. There's 80 plus in the province, to develop a quality assurance framework. So that's a compliment to St.Amant because they're saying, okay, St.Amant does quality service pretty well. They go through an accreditation process. They have a framework that they work within. And what Leanne's trying to do is create a framework for the whole province. And she's working under the direction of, the one committee is actually chaired by the Deputy Minister of Family. So again, we should be proud of that work. And I'm very anxious to see what, I think we're going to have a product to look at within the next 6 months. Now, I mentioned the Behavioral Stabilization Service. Just a reminder, we have a proposal in front of the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority and the Department of Health to create 9 opportunities or 9 spots where people could come and receive stabilization service here at River Road. We're prepared to invest some money and repurpose some of our funding that we receive here at River Road to do that. And we haven't heard back, but everything and all the questions we've got appear to point us in the direction that they're still very interested, and we should hear in the next little while. That being said, even though we haven't officially been operating it, we've been operating some stabilization services for some people who have been absolutely in desperate need in the community. And I really want to commend staff because we don't actually officially have the model up and running, but we're doing some of the work. And here's an example of commitment at St.Amant. When Todd asked for volunteers to come forward and work in this area, and you have to appreciate that some of the individuals that we were supporting are very challenging. We had 23 volunteers, and that to me is just awesome. And we've talked about, how we're going to evolve and change our services, and that staff hopefully will self-identify if they're interested in particular work. That to me is that self-identifying piece, and I hope that continues in the future. Workshops. Do you know that we do lots of workshops? We do Intro to Disability, we do Intro to Autism, we do How to Manage Challenging Behavior, we have Feeding and Swallowing workshops that we offer. I already mentioned, we have, I just got a big thank you from the Winnipeg Police for Brendan's presentations that he's been doing for them, and they want more, and they think they're awesome. And so we are doing a really good job here as part of our Jordan's Principle work. We're doing workshops all over the province these days, and as we do more, we get asked to do even more on top of that. So, and we're also being asked to develop new curriculum and new ideas for workshops as we go forward. Another area that differentiates us from everybody else is we're the only organization that got an award from the federal government this year for our English at Work program. So congratulations to all of the people who have been working part of that. And that wasn't an award where 100 organizations got it. It was a very limited number, a handful of people, of organizations across Canada that got recognized for that work. So, and to highlight that, I got an email about 2 weeks ago from an individual that said they really wanted to send their thank you to this organization because we provided space for that individual to study before they went to work. Somebody was working here at River Road. They really felt through the English at Work program that we were a partner in their journey, and through that partnership, that person was able to achieve their LPN status. And it took them a couple of years, but they persevered and they got through, and they just wanted to say thank you to us as an organization. You should be proud of that too. And then the other area that I think we're probably all aware of, but maybe we don't stop and think about, is because we are large, here's the benefit, and we are diverse, is we have this whole continuum of services that we can offer people. So if you're fairly independent and you want supported independent living, we can offer you that. If you want to live with a family, we got foster care. If you want to live in a community residence, have some independence, have your health needs met, maybe you have some behavioral needs, we can figure out how to support those people too. And we can do that in a number of different environments. So we have River Road, but we also have this whole range of services that we have available in the community, and that, you know, we're not quite there where we can say that every one of our services is totally person-centered, but we're getting there. And that right now, I think as of today, we have about 137 residents here at River Road. And you'll remember that I talked about that we want to get to 115, which will provide everyone with the opportunity to have their own room. They'll also have more staff attention because the staff ratios will be that much better. People will be in restraints less because they'll have more one-to-one attention from the people that will support them. We're still on that journey, and we predict right now that in about a year and a half, we should be at that 115. So we're getting there. So that's kind of my list of what sets us apart. And those are, I share those with you, and I encourage you to share those with others too, okay? Here's some other projects that we've been working on in the last 6 months. We have our PALS program, which matches individuals we support, whether they live here at River Road or in the community. It profiles that individual, and then it allows a volunteer to come forward and create a profile, and then we try and find a match based on interest and personality and etc., with the ultimate goal that we know that people that we support, that a lot of people with disabilities are pretty lonely. They might have paid staff, you, who look after them, but it's different when you have somebody that isn't paid, that you can call your friend, and that will stand up for you, and that will advocate for you when you need it. And that's what we ultimately like to see for people we support, and we're going to hear a little bit more about that later today. I just want to highlight, Tracy did an interview the other morning on CBC, Tracy from Volunteer Services, and Tracy Luke, and she did an awesome job, so big shout out to her for that. Oh, there you are right there. Well done. We have our 3 West Reno, which is pretty well 99.9 complete. I think we might have a couple small things that are being done. And just a reminder that, you know, that's about a $1.5 million project that was funded totally by our foundation. No government money. And we're continuing to get out there and try and identify new donors. We're actually using, that was the Winnipeg Foundation funded one, and we're supposed to be using it as a showcase for other donors. So we hope to make further announcements in the future. We have new employee evaluation tools. Might not sound that exciting at a town hall, but it's important to mention. We have continued our mindful practice training. We have family and person-centered training that's been going on. We have been creating new autism models that we've been talking about with government of late. We have our FM Cafe that continues to shine, and we have a leisure guide partnership with the City of Winnipeg that we've been working on, so those are all great developments. We continue to transition people, and we continue to evaluate and follow up on those transitions. And we have an advocacy project with parents. Some of the funding came from the Community Living Manitoba, and St.Amant's partnering with a couple of other organizations to make strong advocates of parents. We know that parent advocacy is so important in the area of disability. I always say to people, if you look around and see what we offer as far as services, none of it would be here without the advocacy of parents. So some pretty amazing projects. Now, I want to talk a little bit about leadership at all levels in our organization and how I think St.Amant operationalizes or acts, around leadership. I picked a few examples that I hope kind of resonate with people. When we talk about teams, and we have many different teams within our organization, we know that some teams are functioning really, really well. And we also know that some teams struggle from time to time. They might struggle because we've introduced a rapid amount of change and they're having trouble with that. They might have communication issues. There might be some performance issues within those teams. And I think most people are aware that we don't try and solve all of that alone. Sometimes we've called upon services like People First HR services to come in and do an objective assessment. So they meet with staff, they hear from staff, they give us recommendations. And to me, that's a way of us being transparent and also saying and encouraging leaders to say, have you ever worked at stop here. Have you ever worked at an organization where everything's great? Everything's great all the time. There's no problems here. And I think that there's great danger in that. And so one of the things that we do at the senior leadership table is we encourage leaders to bring forward, we know there's lots of good things. I just spent some time telling you all the great things we're doing, but we also know that there are teams and individuals and people that are struggling, and we need to address those so that we can get even better at what we do. And so, we have that ongoing commitment. We've through a couple of town halls, people can pick up sometimes where there might be some more challenges than others, and I can tell you we've addressed those. And I can tell you that in talking back to those people, they are seeing some improvements in those areas, and that's what we want to see. We also, when we have allegations of abuse or neglect, if it's a child, we report it to CFS, they come in and do the investigation. If it's an adult with a disability, it's reported under the Vulnerable Persons Act. We sometimes are given the option, do you want to investigate that yourself, or do you want someone to come in and do that investigation? And we have asked, and actually sometimes we're not asked, we tell them, we want someone to come in. We want this to be an objective assessment. We want to learn what we can do better the next time, and we want to make sure that people are protected. So I want you to know that that's how we act within this organization around allegations like that. And then I'm going to jump to a totally different area. Finances, our budget. We're approaching $90 million, I think, overall in our budget this year. We are responsible for managing a lot of taxpayer dollars. So in our family, I'm going to pick on Department of Families because that's where we, for the last couple of years, have been having a really, really in-depth conversation. And part of it was, we don't understand you guys because you're kind of complex. So I think we did a courageous thing. Some people might say, why'd you do that? We said, come on in and look at all of our finances. Make sure you understand it, because we think at the end of it, you'll see what we see, and that is that we need a little bit more of your help here. So we just went through that process. It was very in-depth. It required a lot of work on a lot of people's behalf, a lot of questions being answered. And at the end of that, they understood us better. We also understood what their needs are from the province's perspective. But the best outcome was that I think we have a much stronger partnership going forward, and we were able to have them realize and support some of our requests that we had put forward. So I believe that being transparent and being able to talk about those things can be and are important leadership qualities within this organization. So I say that to you because I'm encouraging you to bring concerns forward through hopefully the right channels, and then we can hopefully find some solutions for them. In the realm of challenges, I've talked to you a little bit about at past town halls around our nutrition services, and I think I mentioned that we have census reduction here, so that means that the back part of our kitchen that prepares food for the people that live here. We need to have a look at that and see how that's going to work in the future. And then the front end, the cafeteria piece, I used the term subsidized in the past. I'll just explain. We actually, the people, when I pay for a meal, I'm not paying for the whole meal. We're actually using money from other parts of the organization to help prop that up. So what we've done is we've invited a third-party expert to come in, and they're doing that right now. The nutrition staff know this. They're doing a review, and that we hope to have some recommendations that we can start to look at in late May, early June. And I'll give you an example of something that I think demonstrates kind of good practice around meals and providing healthy choices for people. I had a chance to go over to the University of Winnipeg, and anybody familiar with Diversity Foods? I had no idea, but they created a food service that does catering. It's a $3.6 million organization. They provide a huge amount of jobs for people and for newcomers, and they really view it as a kind of a socially responsible enterprise that meets a whole bunch of needs. So, those are the kinds of innovative and creative things that I think we can look at. We have a lot of extra space in the kitchen that there might be ways to utilize that differently to benefit a whole bunch of different outcomes in the end. Our child care center came up in our conversations with the Department of Families. Childcare is a Department of Families responsibility, and so we're going to be looking at the longer term kind of financial sustainability or the budget of the childcare center, because we are again using some funds from program to kind of support that childcare center. It is an absolutely vital corporate service. It is, I think, 65% of our employees use our childcare center. So I just want to highlight it's really important, and we're going to put a lot of emphasis on making sure that it's there for the long term. The other thing that we've been talking about, and I want to provide a little bit of an update on, is River Road. And many of the people that work at River Road would have attended a session. I think we had 10 or 12 sessions last fall where we invited staff to come in, and they met with Jennifer Rodrigue and Jennifer Klimnik in a facilitated environment to talk about, hey, River Road is changing. When our census goes to 115, how we provide service, how we interact as teams, how we ultimately interact with the person in front of us, we're going to be able to change that. What are your ideas? So we invited staff to have some feedback and input into that, and then we provided that to the senior management within River Road, and we gave them a couple of jobs. One was to go and create a new leadership framework, because we know that it's going to look different as we move forward. We hope to have that to be able to share in June. So I'm letting you know that piece. And then the other piece that I think has come up and came up in those sessions was the communication within teams and the communication between teams and between shifts needs to get much better. I'll give you an example. We had lots of stuff going on during the week, and then on Saturday some plans were made during the week for people, and guess what? They forgot to tell the people on the weekend shift that they'd made plans for them. And so people were directly impacted in that they weren't able to do what they thought they were going to do, and that was just simply because we didn't figure out the communication piece, and we've got to figure that out as we go forward. So those are three areas. The other question I get, I'm going to shift here to mindfulness now, is why are we talking about mindfulness here? Why does it matter? And I'm going to give you a real life example from my view of the world, why I think it matters. I was meeting with a bunch of other executive directors and CEOs of other organizations like New Directions and Dash and Windserve and all of them. A bunch of us were in the room. We were talking about what we thought the experience was like for a family that was kind of looking for a service provider. What do you think they're looking for when they talk to us and then go to New Directions and go to another agency, etc.? And we also talked about that there are some for-profit service providers out in the market to now. And that what do we think that experience might look like there? And I'll tell you what I think I know. I know that the for service providers, if you show interest in maybe getting service from them, they're probably ready to meet with you. Is tomorrow good? Tomorrow morning, 8:30? Sure, we'll be at your house. We'll, does that work for you? Whatever we can do, we'll look after you. We were recognizing that in the not-for-profit world, we have this dynamic where we're always kind of negotiating with government and saying, geez, you're not giving us enough. And sometimes that attitude kind of comes through to families. Sometimes we have more work than we feel that we need. So that next family that walked in the door, they're looking at us and they're saying, are they really interested? Are they present here with me? Are they interested in supporting my son or daughter or my brother or sister? They're always looking at us. They're looking at all of us. And what I think mindfulness can give us is an ability to be present. And if we can be present with the person we're supporting, or their support network, or in a meeting, or when I'm working in HR and finance and interacting with other people or my own people in my team, mindfulness can make the experience better for everybody. And for someone, and I'll just share, for someone like me, sometimes I'm in the meeting, but I'm also in the one right after it too. Ever had that experience? Or I'm actually still in the one before where I was really frustrated. And so things like we're doing where we're saying, okay, everybody, we're just going to take a few minutes of silence here and arrive and focus on the topic and why we're here for this meeting. That is meant to interrupt that thought pattern and to give us a chance to be together and to recognize that the people in the room are the most important people in the world to us right now. So we're not trying to get everybody to meditate. If you like it and it works for you, that's great. But we're not forcing anything down anybody's throat. We're giving you an opportunity to explore mindfulness in a way that works for you. So if you have an opportunity to take advantage of any of the offerings, just try it. Go online. There's lots of resources that are helpful. And I can guarantee you that most of the people actually all of the people that I've talked to that have done that have come back and said, I get it. I understand what's going on. And that ultimately, I think we'll also have families and people come back to us and say, and I think I get quite a bit of this already, where people say to me, St.Amant is awesome. You guys are so caring. I want to keep hearing that forever, and I think you want to keep hearing that forever too. But it does take a lot of focus to be present. But I will say this to you, that given the type of work that we do, it's pretty easy to find meaning in it. I see a lot of people out there where when they say to me, I don't know how to find, and I don't want to pick on any one vocation, but if you're not supporting vulnerable people on a daily basis, let's say you're working in a factory or etc., if your role isn't contributing to that, you might have some struggles sometimes finding meaning. If you're having struggles here finding meaning, talk about it. Because maybe you do need a change. But I think there is lots of meaning here. And what a great place to work for me. I've had a chance to do a lot of different things in my career, but this is my favorite place to work. I'm getting speed up a little bit. Okay. So the next strategic plan, we have Gino Braha, who's again leading this strategic plan. So this is what we've done so far. We've talked to people that we support. We've talked to employees. We've talked to family, community members, stakeholders, other agencies, and funders. And Gino's pulling all that together. That becomes the basis for our strategic plan as we go forward. We have an advisory committee that's made up of about 20 individuals, includes family members, outside individuals, Indigenous representatives, and they're helping to make sure that our plan is truly comprehensive. And then next fall, we'll be able to come out to you and tell you what the next 5-year strategic plan looks like. Okay? Just before I close and go to break here, there's two things I want to talk about. One is we have our Free the Spirit Festival, which is our largest fundraiser in the fall this year. Juliette, the date is? Do you know it? September 29th?
29.
So, thank you, Jimmy, our former co-chair. We have a president's committee that asks volunteers from different parts of the organization to come and meet at lunch hour for every few weeks just before the festival. There will be an invitation out there shortly. I invite you, if you haven't been involved before, to come forward. We just want you to be able to promote it in your area, to talk about it to families and to the wider community. It is a very, very important event for us, so please look for that. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention is I had a question about, somebody said that they'd heard a rumor that my contract was coming to an end. So I just wanted people to know that I signed another 5-year contract last year, so I have at least 4 more years with the organization, and I really do want to see this next strategic plan carry forward. We have some things we need to finish off from this 5 years. And as I already said, I really love working in this organization. I love working with all of you. So with that, we'll take a break, come back in 15 minutes. Don't forget, you can come forward to Jen and I with questions. Otherwise, the mics will come around. Help yourself to cookies, juice, and coffee. Thanks.